Today, we're talking about Operation Greif. It was Hitler's wild, last-ditch Trojan Horse plan during the Battle of the Bulge, and it was designed to sow absolute chaos throughout the Allied army. And it all started with one simple, terrifying question.
So just try to put yourself in this situation for a second. It's the dead of winter, 1944. You're in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge. It's freezing. You're under constant attack. And now you have to wonder if the guy in the foxhole next to you, wearing the same uniform as you, is actually on your side. For thousands of American GIs, this wasn't just some crazy thought. It was a life-or-death question.
And the results of this paranoia were just bizarre. I mean, we're talking about frontline soldiers stopping in the middle of a battle to quiz each other on baseball trivia. A brigadier general gets held at gunpoint by his own troops. And get this, the Supreme Allied Commander himself, Dwight D. Eisenhower, had to basically go into hiding. All of this was the intended result of one of the weirdest deception missions of the entire war.
Okay, so first up, paranoia in the ranks. Let's really dig into how this one operation managed to spread like a virus and turn the U.S. Army against itself.
You know, it almost sounds funny now, but it was deadly serious then. American soldiers, desperate to spot German spies, started using pop culture trivia as a loyalty test, and this led to some truly wild situations. Take Brigadier General Bruce Clark. He was held at gunpoint by his own men, all because he messed up a baseball question. He said the Chicago Cubs were in the American League. Whoops!
And this wasn't just happening with the grunts on the front line. Oh no. This paranoia shot straight to the very top. A rumor got started, probably by a captured German commando, that the real mission was to assassinate General Eisenhower. Well, the Allies totally bought it. Ike was, as you can imagine, not amused at all. He had to spend Christmas 1944 basically under house arrest in his own headquarters. That's a huge psychological blow.
So you have to be asking, what kind of plan could cause this much chaos? Well, let's talk about Hitler's deception plan. It all started with the Führer himself and his go-to guy for impossible missions.
And here he is, SS Commando Otto Skorzeny, right there in the middle. This guy was basically Hitler's favorite commando, a kind of real-life supervillain. He was already a legend for his crazy glider rescue of Mussolini. So when the Allies caught wind that Skorzeny was leading some new secret mission behind their lines, yeah, they freaked out. They expected the absolute worst.
Hitler gave Skorzeny the mission personally, and his instructions were simple and pretty chilling. He said, "I want you to create special units wearing American and British uniforms. Think of the confusion you could cause." The primary goal wasn't just military. It was pure psychological warfare.
So the official name for this was Operation Greif, that's Griffin in English, and on paper it had two goals. The big one was to capture these super important bridges over the Meuse River, but the real goal, the one that actually worked, just to cause as much chaos and panic as humanly possible behind enemy lines.
But here's where the story takes a turn. Like a lot of late-war Nazi plans, the grand vision was, well, let's just say it didn't quite match up with reality. Skorzeny thought he was getting an elite commando force. What he got was more like a brigade of misfits.
Just look at these numbers. It tells you everything you need to know. Skorzeny asked for 15 American tanks to make the disguise work. He got 1 Sherman. He asked for 100 Jeeps. He got 30. 120 trucks? Nope, just 15. He had to make do with German vehicles just painted green and hoping for the best. Not exactly a recipe for a convincing deception.
Okay, but the equipment problem was nothing compared to the people problem. Think about this. You have a brigade of 2,500 men who are supposed to convincingly impersonate Americans. So how many of them could speak perfect, slang-filled American English? 10. That's it. 10 guys. A few hundred more knew some broken English, but the vast majority, not a word. This whole plan was hanging by a thread.
And their disguises for the vehicles? I mean, just look at this. This is a German Panther tank that they tried to make look like an American M10 tank destroyer by just welding some extra metal plates onto it. It wasn't fooling anyone up close. It really just sums up the whole operation. A brilliant, terrifying idea on paper, but in reality, it was just clumsy and desperate.
So seeing how things were going, Skorzeny had to improvise. He took his best guys, the 10 who could actually speak English, and formed a tiny little commando unit. Their mission was pure chaos. Forget the bridges. Their job was to cause trouble, blow up ammo dumps, flip road signs around to send U.S. troops the wrong way, and cut telephone wires to just completely paralyze the American chain of command.
Which brings us to the outcome. So, how did this mess of an operation actually do? Well,
It's a total paradox. We're calling this section Chaos over Conquest, and you're about to see why.
All right, so from a strictly military point of view, Operation Greif was a complete and total flop, a tactical failure. The main German offensive got bogged down, so Skorzeny's brigade never even got close to those Meuse River bridges. In the end, they just got used as a regular army unit in the fighting.
But, and this is the incredible part, while the main brigade failed, those tiny commando teams, they succeeded beyond anyone's wildest imagination. We're talking about a few dozen guys and a handful of jeeps, but they created so much panic and disruption way out of proportion to their actual numbers. They proved that sometimes fear is a more powerful weapon than a tank.
Of course, for the German soldiers who took part in this, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Under the rules of war at the time, if you were captured wearing your enemy's uniform, you were considered a spy, not a prisoner of war, and the penalty for that was death. At least 18 of these commandos were captured, put on trial right there on the spot, and executed by a firing squad.
But the story doesn't end there. There's one last, really surprising twist. After the war, Otto Skorzeny, the mastermind himself, was put on trial. And the verdict? Well, it would set a legal precedent that's still debated today.
So it's 1947. Skorzeny and some of his officers are at the Dachau trials, in front of an American military tribunal. The charge against them seems pretty straightforward. You broke the laws of war by dressing your men in American uniforms to fight.
But the whole case came down to a really fine legal point. The prosecution said fighting in an enemy uniform is a war crime, period. But Skorzeny's defense had a clever argument. They said it's only a crime if you actually fight in the uniform. If you just use it for deception to get behind enemy lines and then take it off before you start shooting, well, that's just a ruse of war, and that's perfectly legal.
And you know what? The court bought it. It was pretty incredible. The prosecutors just couldn't produce any evidence, no written order that proved Skorzeny told his men to actually open fire while they were still in disguise. And in a wild twist, a British special ops officer testified that, yeah, Allied commandos did the exact same kind of thing. So Skorzeny was acquitted. He walked free. And that verdict helped draw a very fine and very important line in the laws of war.
So in the end, Operation Greif leaves us with this really tough question. It was a total military failure that somehow became a psychological masterpiece. And it really forces us to think, in the fog of war, where exactly is that line between a clever trick and a war crime?